Hello, in this presentation we will provide an overview of the course, the content of the course, and the structure that content will be provided in. That said, note that this is a course that we have permanently once purchased, and as such we do get feedback on the course and make adjustments, improve the course, add content, adjust content as we get feedback. So please give us that feedback as we go forward, and we will work on adding content as we go. The basic structure, however, will remain much the same. This overview is a good guide of the way the course will be laid out. It'll give you the sections that we will be covering. Within each section, there's going to be a lot more data within each section, and they will not always be even. So some sections will have much more data than other sections, but you can see what we will basically be covering by the section headers. There's about 25 hours of material at this time. We're also going to include the PDF files and the PowerPoints to download. We also have the downloadable files for the QuickBooks backup files. The first section here will be an introduction to the course, explaining what the course will be containing. The second section is going to get us going in terms of how do we get the setup process set up. We got to get the QuickBooks set up. We need to download the QuickBooks in some way, install QuickBooks, and then get a data file working. We are going to recommend using a data file that we provide so that we have the same numbers and we're looking at the same set of data. That's not required, however, if you would like to use your set of data, or if you would like to use the free data sets that are set up within QuickBooks and run through a relevant same type of process with a different data set, you can do that. Then we have the navigation through QuickBooks. We're going to go through the components of QuickBooks, looking at the home page, looking at the vendor section, the employee section, how to get to those sections. A lot of different ways to do that, and we'll explore those different sections. We have some theory components here. This is just going to be a couple videos that are going to be on the theory. What is the accounting system? What is the double entry accounting system? And then we're going to look to apply that theory. So as we actually input data, or in this case look at forms, look at the balance sheet, it's good to have some idea of what the balance sheet is just in theory, and then look at how QuickBooks is going to present it. Later we'll look at how QuickBooks will generate that financial statement. Then we've got the income statement and the statement of equity. Once again, we'll take a look at the theory first, and then we'll look at the actual statements within QuickBooks, just generating those statements, not actually entering any data up until this point, just looking at the data set provided. Then we've got some other reports and graphs. We're going to navigate through some other reports within QuickBooks. And then we'll finally get down to new features. Those are going to be features within QuickBooks 2018 that differ from prior features. So if you're interested in those new features, you can take a look at those items here. Then we're going to start here at the start of the new problem, meaning this is where we're going to start a new company. We're going to start that new company from scratch, so you will not need to restore a backup file. If you work from this point forward, this might be where if you want to just jump forward and really get going and start on a new company file and see how to work through everything, you could jump forward to here. If you have no understanding of QuickBooks prior to this, however, I would recommend going back and going through all the steps prior, and then getting to here where we will actually be starting to enter data. We then have some more accounting theory, just thinking about when we enter the data, what are we trying to do here? What is the data going to be? This is going to be the cash method and the accrual method, and just some concepts of what is revenue recognition, so that when we then go here and enter this data, we have an idea of the principles driving QuickBooks. How is the data input being used in order to generate reports? Why is QuickBooks set up that way? If we just have some basic understanding of the double entry accounting system, the accrual process, then we can go through that data and have a good understanding of what we are inputting. Then we're going to enter data for a couple months here. These are going to be our longest sections. So these are going to include most of the data entry type information, because these are going to work through the day-to-day transactions during the month, including customer transactions, vendor transactions, and employee transactions. We'll do that one for the starting month, the first month of operation, focusing more on cash transactions, and then we'll do the same for the second month of operations, working through those same vendor section, the customer section, the payroll section, going through all the normal data entry processes, and looking at a few different ways that we are going to be able to approach those data entry processes. We're also going to try to do this in a way so that we can use the forms as much as possible and use the registers as much as possible and use debits and credits less as possible. However, we will mention the areas where it's likely that debits and credits and entering a journal entry would be most useful. But QuickBooks is driven by forms and it's driven by ledgers, and that's how we're going to concentrate on entering the data into the system. We'll then do bank reconciliations, going to be a huge component of this process. Then we're going to do adjusting entries. Those are going to be entries as of the end of the month that we'll have to put in place in order to make the financials correct as of that time period. This is typically something that is often done by an outside CPA firm for a lot of companies, but it's good to understand that process, especially if you're working with an outside CPA firm, and it also gives a good idea of what those accrual principles are again. Then we have the budgeting process, so we'll talk about the budgeting process, how to set up budgets within QuickBooks.